It's easy to call yourself quote unquote a man when you aren't faced with any hardship. Super easy, right? Like, hey, I'm a man. I got a dick. I got balls. Like, I'm a man. What are you talking about?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 1%er podcast. We got an amazing episode for you today. We have the founder of Order of Man, the author of Sovereignty, combat veteran, just stud, guys, Ryan Michler. So thanks so much, Ryan, for being on the show, man. We really appreciate it.
Dude is a stud.
I've been looking forward to it. So glad to be joining you guys today.
That's the guy you were showing me, like in like this much snow was getting his workout in, right? I remember him. You know, like it was like on this much snow.
I just moved to Maine a little over a year ago, and I was in southern Utah, and then Justin, you and I were talking. I was in Anaheim, so snow wasn't a thing for me until last year, and it's crazy. I mean, there's so much snow up here. We like it, but it's just something to get used to.
So it was. I was doing the 75 hard, and it was like raining really hard here. And I'm like, man, you know, I can't be walking in the rain like this, you know. And then he pulled you up. You were like in neck in the snow.
You had snow on your mustache.
Yeah, you were snow on the mustache. He was like, no, man, you got to do it. I'm like, fuck, you know. I'm like, all right, man, no fucking excuses.
Yeah.
It counts more, man. It counts more when you don't want to do it, when it's uncomfortable. It counts more. So it's always a good time to do it in the snow, even though we're in the midst of summer right now.
You know, when you got to always make sure it's in 5.1.
Yeah. We got you okay? Yeah, you like that a little.
Yeah,
okay.
did I lose you guys?
No, we're good now.
We're good. But listen, man, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what Order of Man is and how you came to start that?
Yeah, I look at Order of Man as a movement to really give men, you know, whether that's young men, guys, you know, on the other side of retirement, whatever, the tools they need, the skill sets, the access to information, the conversations via our podcast to thrive as husbands, fathers, business owners, leaders in their community, just men in general, however they're showing up as. So I started this 5.5 years ago. I wish I could say I had noble intentions. I mean, quite frankly, I did it for selfish reasons. I thought, I want to improve myself. You know, I want to be a better father. I want to lead my wife well. I want to step up in the community. I want to grow my business, which was struggling at the time. It was a financial planning practice that I had. And I thought, what better way to do this than to do a podcast, get access to incredible men who are doing incredible things, and I would glean information from them. The only reason I thought they would even remotely share with me or join me is because I would broadcast this to an audience that, frankly, at that point, I just didn't have, you know. So I put it out there into the world, these individual, like, private coaching sessions, I looked at them as, put it out into the world, and quite frankly, it blew up from day one, which told me, you know, I was onto something. Good timing in the market. It's pretty fortuitous that way, and guys really resonated with the message of what we were about, which is to reclaim and restore masculinity in a society that I think is continually dismissive and of what it means to be a man.
You know what, man? I wholeheartedly agree with you. I read your book a couple of years ago, and I was like, this is so much needed right now because everybody's now downplaying the masculinity. Everybody's like, you know, I think it all started out with, what is that show? Married with Children. You remember, I think like you know, the guy was just like, you know, they were walking all over him, they were making fun of him, and the guy was, you know what I mean? I think it all started out with that, and it all went downhill, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you actually talk about it, you think it starts with the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back into history, and I've done a lot of research and studying, but during the Industrial Revolution, what happened is men permanently left their homes. You know, men have always been called away from their families, primarily through war campaigns, right? You know, you look at World War I, World War II, the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and even prior to that, when we were tribes running around the African plains, men have always been called away from their families. But during the Industrial Revolution, we were permanently called away from our families. It wasn't a campaign, it was indefinite. And so the men left their farms, they left their fields. They were raising, before that, little Sally and little Timmy, and so dad was very, very involved. And these men were promised security, they were promised a steady paycheck, and that became the new reality for millions and millions of men, is to leave the house, to go into the city and to work in the factory to earn a paycheck And then these men come home and they're dog tired. Little Sally and little Timmy don't ever see their dad because he leaves before the sun comes up and he gets home after the sun goes down. Maybe they have dinner with dad. But prior to that, women, I should say it this way, young ladies, daughters, were learning what to look for in men. And boys, young men, were looking at their fathers for the model of masculinity. And then what happened is that mom was left to raise the children. And this is not a knock against mom. Mom did as best a job she could. My mother raised me primarily on her own. Had a couple of stepfathers come into my life who weren't great examples. But she recognized that I needed a masculine presence in my life, and she got me involved in competitive sports. But this was happening across the country, across the world, with millions of families where there was no masculine presence as a permanent fixture in the home. So mom stepped up, and she can only do what she can do. She's a woman. She can't fully raise a man. She can raise a good and decent human being, but she can't turn a boy into a man. It requires a man to do that. So then what happened is mom left, right? Because now mom's required to go out into the workforce because of the cost of living and all of that stuff. Like we need two family income, or a two income family now. So what are we gonna do with the kids? Well, I know what we'll do. We'll ship them into these little mini factories, these training camps called schools, and we'll train them to be factory workers. And who are they learning from? Women. You know, you look at the demographics for teachers, it's 80 to 90%, or maybe even more in some instances, of women. And again, this is not a knock against women. I love women. I think what they bring to the table is phenomenal. I think it's much needed. It's invaluable, but it isn't complete. And so little Sally doesn't have a male influence in her life. So she chooses losers because she doesn't know what a real man looks like. And little Timmy is the loser because he doesn't have the model of what it actually means to be a man. And this problem continues to get worse and worse and worse. You know, the best thing of this COVID thing, I'll tell you, is that dads are at home. Dads are in their houses where they should be, teaching their children, engaging with their children, interacting with them, modeling what it means to be a man. And that's one of the unintended and positive benefits of what we're experiencing in the wake of COVID.
I feel like so many people are unaware of the problem. You know, like you look at young men, 20 in their late 20s, something like that, and they're like, I'm a man, what are you talking about? They don't understand this next part of it that you go into, man. And I want to talk about, what do you think the difference is between just being a male, just growing up and kind of living as a male, but being that man that you aspire to be?
It's easy to call yourself quote unquote a man when you aren't faced with any hardship. Super easy, right? Like, hey, I'm a man. I got a dick. I got balls. Like, I'm a man. What are you talking about? And until you're faced with any level of hardship and you get punched in the teeth, whether that's figuratively or literally, you don't actually know if you're a man.
That's true.
So this is actually the beauty of the modern times in which we live. I mean, we live in an amazing society. You know, I know the media likes to play this up, but we live in the least racist, the most prosperous, the healthiest. I mean, people are living longer than they ever have up until, you know, the last year or two because of some disease that has come into play here. The prosperity, the access to information, freedom, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We live in the best time in the history of mankind. And as beneficial as that is, and look, I like my creature comforts. I mean, you and I wouldn't be having conversations if it weren't for technology and some of the creature comforts we enjoy. But we aren't tested. You know, you guys obviously, you train, you work out, you're strong, you're fit, you put yourself under physical stress for the right reasons. But there's guys that aren't stressed physically, mentally, emotionally at all. And so we have to manufacture these hardships. And we can do that in the gym. We can do that in training. We can do that in a lot of different ways. So until you're actually tested, you don't actually know if you're a man. You're just a male. You're biologically a male. So what is the difference? Well, my boys. So I've got 3 boys and I've got a little girl. My boys are 12, 9, and 4. And they're boys. Now they have the makeup, right? They have the genetics of what it means to be a man, but they're not men. They're not even expected to be men. So that tells us that inherently there's a distinction between male and man, right? What is it? It's number one, personal accountability and responsibility. My boys, yes, I mean they have some responsibility because they got some chores and things to do around the house, and maybe a level of accountability because if they don't do their chores or they backtalk their mom or whatever it might be, there's some repercussions of that. So slight personal accountability. But, if they go out and do something stupid, it falls upon me as their father, the man of the house. So they're not expected to be men, they're expected to be boys. But when they begin to take personal responsibility and accountability of their own lives, that's where they start to transition. And that's why 100 years ago, or even in a situation where dad's out of the picture, he got killed, he died to an illness, divorce, whatever, why you see young men stepping up out of necessity. They begin to take accountability and responsibility, not only of themselves, but of other people. And that leads into the second component of what it means to be a man, which is, and it says it on my shirt, in fact, I don't know if you can really see it, but right here, protect, provide, preside. It's a man's job to do all three, protect, provide, preside. And what you see is the foundational element of all three of those roles, protect, provide, preside, is an element of service to other people. Yeah. I need to make myself capable of protecting, providing, and presiding for myself first, and then it turns outward into my family, my friends, my community members. If you have an organization like you guys do or like I do, out to our clients and the people who would be inspired and uplifted by what we do. So to wrap this up on a bow, the difference between a male and a man is personal accountability and responsibility, and also the ability and the desire to protect, provide, preside. I should back up and also say, it's sad I even need to say this, a man is biologically a man. Like, that's the prerequisite, all right? Yeah. And look, if you're on this quote-unquote spectrum, fine, whatever. But a woman can't be a man. However you want to paint it, that's not how it works. A man is primarily and first and foremost a biological male, then accountability and responsibility, then protect, provide, preside.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Let's talk about those three: protect, provide, preside. What do those mean for you, and how do you actively pursue them?
Well, again, I mean, what they mean to me ultimately is I realize and recognize that within each one of those roles, we'll call them for the sake of argument, is this underlying element of service. Like, I am in service to other people. I look at that like I'm a servant. And some people say that might be, they don't like that term. I'm a servant, right? That sounds wrong a little bit. But I look at my job as to serve. I'm here to serve, even in the context of this conversation. I'm here to serve you guys, and I'm here to serve your audience. Like, I'm here to serve you guys, right? When I'm fulfilling my role, my fatherly duties, I'm there to serve my children. When I'm there and present and available for my wife, I'm here to serve her. Not at the expense of myself, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, I'd flip it on its head and say that you actually, as a man, need to take care of yourself first. Because if you don't carve out time for yourself and you don't take care of yourself, then you will have no capacity to serve other people. So when you say, what does it mean to you? What does protect, provide, preside mean to you? It means service. I am in service to other people. And I make myself, in all ways, as best as I can, and I fall short every day, but as best as I can, I make myself capable physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, capable of serving those people I care about, I trust, I respect, and I love, frankly.
Yeah, I love that because Sean Whalen talks about it a lot. The oxygen mask. He's like, you're not gonna go reach over to your neighbor in the plane and put their mask on. You're gonna put yours on first. So I think a lot of, especially dads, they always, like, they won't eat and they'll give their kids the food, and that's good in some instances, but you can't give what you don't have, you know. So I think, like you're saying, you got to be able to fill your cup to take care of yourself so that you can have the opportunity for that overflow. And that's right. Like that's a lot of people I think it's selfish, you know, that they're gonna take care of themselves first, but that's what you got to do, you know. And I've seen it with you a lot.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You can't, save somebody from drowning if you can't swim.
Yeah, exactly. No.
Yeah, great point. And, let's talk about that word selfishness. We look at it as a negative term. It's okay to be selfish sometimes. I train every single day. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't do some level of training, whether it's jiu-jitsu or I'm in the gym. That's an hour, maybe 2 hours a day that could be spent somewhere else. And so is it selfish? Yeah. Like, I'm doing it for myself, right? But what most people fail to see, or a lot of people fail to see anyways, is that if I'm more capable, then I can serve other people more effectively. I had a guy on Instagram tell me today, and he was bitching and moaning and crying about, me making money. Like, it can't be a movement and also a business.
Why not? Who says that?
That's a good question. It's a good question. Look, the guys that I follow, that maybe I buy their programs or their courses or am inspired by them in some way, I want them to make as much money as they possibly can. Because the better served they are, the more capable and adequately they can serve me. Right? Like, I've been broke and I've had some level of wealth. And I can tell you, I'm significantly more capable of serving other people when I'm not worried about making the mortgage payment.
100%. And I think some people just have a problem with money, and that's their problem. As soon as you're trying to do good and you try to do good with money, oh my God, he's making money, so it's not a movement, and he's doing it for the money. No, it's not that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just people. I don't think people see money for what it is. They get this little green piece of paper in their wallet, and it messes with their minds, and really, all money is an exchange of value. It just makes the transaction easier. Because let's take, for example, if you guys and me wanted to transact, we wanted to do business, and let's say, for the sake of argument, I had a vehicle that you wanted to buy from me. Now, I know you guys are car guys. I'm not car guys. But let's say that I happen to miraculously have a vehicle that you wanted to buy from me, okay? But you didn't necessarily have anything that I wanted at the time. Business doesn't conduct itself. Because I have something you want, you don't have anything I want, therefore transaction done, no deal, nothing's going to happen. But instead, there's a third party that actually has something I want. Right? Maybe it's a different vehicle that I want. So now I come to you and I'm like, all right, well, I'll sell you this vehicle, and you're going to give me these little green pieces of paper that represent value that we've all agreed upon. And then I'm going to take those little green pieces of paper and I'm going to give them to this third party so that third party can give me the vehicle I want. And then that third party can take those little green pieces of paper and they can go buy whatever it is they want from whoever it is they want. All money is an exchange of value.
Yeah.
So if you find something that's of value, you should exchange money for it. That's an abundance mindset. If you guys offer something valuable, I want to give you money because I'm like, hey guys, this is valuable. Here, you take this money and I'll take what you have to offer me. And the beauty of this voluntary exchange is that we both think we're getting the better end of the deal.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise it wouldn't happen. If I'm selling you a car, you believe that the car you're getting from me is more valuable than the green pieces of paper that you're giving me. And I conversely believe that the green pieces of paper you're giving me are more valuable than the car I'm giving you. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't conduct business. So we both win. It's all relative. It's all perspective. We both win in that situation. No one has to lose in a financial transaction. I think a lot of people believe that if I win, that you lose. No. We both win. And that is a miraculous and beautiful system, probably the most abundant system ever devised by human beings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, personally, when I came to Sam's house for the first time and I saw his cars and everything like that, and then I went back to my friends and I was talking about it. They're like, do you really want that? Like, there's just this connotation that I hate about things and about money and about wealth, that it's almost like if that's a goal of yours, that's bad. And that should not be the case at all. That should not be the case. Like, there's no difference between, wanting to be healthy, or wanting to have a good relationship, and wanting to have nice things, wanting to have a cool car, wanting to have all those things. That's I love that you bring that up because it's simple and it frustrates me.
Hey, I have a Ford F-150 now, so we're good now. So.
Exactly.
I'll give you an example of this right here because, again, it's all it doesn't matter what you find value in, right? Like, again, I'm not a car guy. Does that mean I think you guys shouldn't be car guys? Of course not. I don't care. Like, if cars are your thing, awesome. So my son loves cars. He loves cars. He knows them all, and he tells me about them. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. He's like speaking a different language. And he's 9, right? So I'm at the gas station. This was probably a year and a half ago. I'm at the gas station, and I see these guys, and we lived at the base of Zion National Park in southern Utah. Just a beautiful place. Millions and millions of people come by every year. And these guys had rented some luxury cars. You know, they had Lambos and Ferraris and all the cars, right? So I'm at the gas station, and I see 3 or 4 of them pull up, and they've got these exotic cars. I'm like, man, this doesn't do it for me, but my son would be all about this. So I stopped the pump. I drove home as fast as I could because we lived about a block and a half away. I'm like, Eli, come get in my truck. Don't ask questions, just get in. So he gets in. We drive down to the gas station. The guys are still there because they're filling up. And I'm like, hey, guys, look, weird question. Can my son just like sit in the driver's seat with you guys? Like, can he just sit in the car? That's all I'm asking. Just let him sit in the car. And they were like, yeah, of course. Like, have him sit in there. So he was probably 7, 8 years old at the time. He gets in these cars, and his eyes light up, and he's smiling. And then, you know, we had a good experience. It was a 5-10 minute experience. And then we get back home, and he's like, Dad, I really want one of those cars. And I said, awesome. What are you going to do to earn it? How are you going to make it happen? And so we had this whole other deeper conversation about how to add value and how to find meaning in your life and how to offer value to other people so they'll pay you so that you can buy your car. People say, oh, material possessions, you shouldn't be motivated by that. Why? If that motivates you to do good and to serve other people and to add value, use it as fuel and run with it. My son, he wants all the cars. I want him to have all the cars.
Yeah.
I know.
He's got to create it, but I want him to have them.
Yeah, and Andy talks about it a lot. He's like, dude, if I didn't love cars, like, you think First Form would be a thing? You think my 300 employees would have careers? All these thousands of people would be healthy? None of that would be possible without my love for cars. And it's such a good, it's a vehicle to get you there. You know, that whatever drives you. And I love that, man. But I want to switch gears, and I want to talk about that other word on your shirt, patriarchy. You know, you made that Instagram post, and it pisses a lot of people off. And
All right, now let me lean on the counter for this one, man.
Lean in a little bit.
I want to talk about that. You know, what do you feel about that and everything going on today, and just this connotation about being masculine?
Yeah, I don't mind riling people up. I actually like it a little bit because I think when you rile people up, as long as they're honest and they have good motives, I think you can have some good discussions when you have varying degrees of perspectives and things like that. So I think it's good. So I like to use words and phrases that will rile people up, because let's have these discussions. So patriarch is a word that has been distorted and misconstrued and warped into something that's negative. You know, for example, people like to say the tyrannical patriarchy, right? And when you conflate words like that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make the word patriarch, which historically is simply the male leader of his household or tribe or a community. That's all it means. It's amoral. He's just the leader of the tribe. That's it. Period. Not good, not bad, amoral. And so people like to use these words to misconstrue them in order to paint whatever picture they're trying to paint. Same thing with toxic masculinity. Masculinity, toxic. Now, some people say, we're not saying all masculinity is toxic. I know that's not what some of you are saying, but others of you are saying that all masculinity is toxic. And I'll have people say, well, right, nobody believes that. Well, I've actually seen legitimate articles that say, and I quote, masculinity is toxic. So people conflate these words to paint their picture that they've already have made up in their mind. Now, I happen to look at a patriarch as a good thing. You know, the coaches that I was telling you about earlier, those were patriarchs. Those were men who had a skill set, who had the desire to impact and influence young men, and they did so for the betterment of their own lives, their men's lives, the young men's lives, mine in particular, and for society in general. So I think a man who has a desire to be a patriarch, that's a noble thing. That's an honorable thing. We should want to lead. Now, the way we lead is important, but we should want to lead with honor and class and integrity. I had a guy tell me, oh, the patriarch is bad in this situation, in this context, and it's tyrannical and it's oppressive. And I said, that's not leadership, guys. That's dictatorship. A patriarch is a male leader of his house, his community, his tribe. Leader. So how do we define that word? Well, a leader, Hitler wasn't a leader. He had some leadership qualities. He could communicate effectively, obviously. But he was a vile, disgusting, nasty, evil human being. That's not leadership. That's not influence. It's dictatorship. It's tyranny. It's fear. And that's the antithesis of what I think it means to be a patriarch. I wear the shirt. I have it on right now. I wear it proudly because I want to be a patriarch of my family. I want to be the patriarch in my community, in my business. This is who I want to be. And it reminds me to lead effectively and to lead with honor and class.
But the thing is so many people won't even listen to that explanation. And that's such a problem today, is people don't listen. People don't want to seek to understand. When they see that word, it'll trigger them. And then automatically, you're bad, you're all this. And I think it goes back to like that cancel culture, you know?
You're a male chauvinist pig.
Yes. Yes. You know what's interesting about this, though, is, look, I love social media. You guys and myself wouldn't be connected if it weren't for the power of social media, right? But there's a downside in it, in that it strips away the humanity. Like I had a guy argue with me, for example, on Instagram about some post I made, and, you know, he's hiding behind this anonymous account. It didn't have his name on it, didn't have his picture. He's just hiding behind this anonymous account. And it's like, we've stripped away of our humanity. If you guys and I, let's say you guys and I were neighbors, okay? You live across the street and you're on a different side of the political aisle as me, whatever that looks like. I guarantee that if we were neighbors and we were both decent human beings, I'm pretty certain that we wouldn't care that I was a liberal or I was a conservative and you were a liberal or you were a conservative. We wouldn't care. I had a neighbor come over and help me with a project several months ago, and he helped me dig a big hole for a mailbox. I brought a shovel over because I had to dig a hole from a mailbox, and he's like, "What are you doing with that shovel?" And I'm like, "Hey, I just got to dig a hole right here." He's like, "No, I got a backhoe. I'll bring it over." And he scooped out the hole in one scoop. Took 2 minutes. I don't know what political affiliation he is. I don't know what religion he is. I don't care. The guy came, and he doesn't know me. Yeah. But he came over and he scooped a hole out and he made it easier for me and he served me and he added value in my life. And that's what we do as neighbors. You know, if I heard that my neighbor got in an accident, or, you know, maybe his wife was hung up with post-surgery recovery, my wife and I would make dinner for them and bring it over. We wouldn't say, "Oh, excuse me, hold on. Are you a Democrat? Or are you a conservative? Oh, excuse me, do you believe in God? Because if you do, we're cool. I can bring you dinner. But if you don't, like, I don't know if I can bring you dinner." We wouldn't ask that shit. We just march over and say, "Here's your chicken noodle soup. I hope you recover. We love you guys. Recover well. We'll see you when you're better. If you need anything else, we're right across the street."
Yeah.
That's what neighbors do, but we don't have that in social media. It's like, you say something and I got to dehumanize you so I can attack you because you happen to see things a little bit differently than me. And it's sad. It's pathetic, actually.
Kind of keyboard warrior, you know, where it's that behind a computer and act all badass, but no picture, anonymous.
Yeah. Like my best friend is polar opposites political views. He's been my best friend for like 15 years. And it's, you know, people lose that, I think, that ability to be able to tolerate things, you know, just to like, hey man, like that's cool. You have your views, I have mine, but we still have so much other things. But all of a sudden people see that and it's like, nope, I'm done. And you're bad. And people lose that ability to find that common ground.
People want to crucify you because you have a different view.
Yeah.
Well, and think about, like, okay, so you and your buddy have a conversation. You guys are buddies. You've been friends for a long time. You respect each other. You don't see eye to eye always, but you respect each other, right? There's got to be some level of mutual respect, otherwise you wouldn't be friends. So he tells you something that you don't necessarily agree with. And instead of being an asshole to him, you're like, oh, you know what? Bro, I never considered that before. Like, I never even thought about that. I didn't see that side of things. And he does the same thing, hopefully, right? Like, he hears you and he's like, oh. He's like, yeah, I didn't think about that. And you're both better off because of it.
Exactly, yeah. People just don't want to have that conversation.
They're closed-minded. They're just like, it's this way and the only way.
Yeah.
And when you're just one way, how are you going to grow? There's no way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I love it, man. And I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about, I was listening to yesterday a podcast with Andy, and it was called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do. And I feel like in the context of men, there's a lot of that feeling. You know, maybe like they've dug themselves in a hole in their relationship with their spouse or with their business or with their relationship with their kids, whatever. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I know I'm in a bad place. I don't know how to get out. What would you say to a guy like that who just finds himself there and doesn't know what to do?
Do something. Like, I mean, I know that's oversimplified, but like, do something. Because what a lot of guys will do is they'll do nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Oh, it's confusing, and there's so many conflicting ideas, and like, I guess I'll just do what I've always done. Okay, well then be prepared for the results you've always produced. Just do something. You know, if you say, for example, okay, I'm 50 pounds overweight, which at one point I was, and I don't want to be overweight. Like, what exercises should I do? What program should I follow? Dude, I don't care. Just get up and do 50 push-ups today, or 20 push-ups, or 10. I don't do girl push-ups and do 5. I don't care. Like, if you haven't done push-ups in 10 years and you got to do 5 girl push-ups, well, that's better than 0 that you ever did before.
It's funny. I was listening to your episode with Sean Whalen, and I love how simple he puts it. He's like, go to the gym, pick up something heavy, and put it down. It's
really, truly. And look, it's going to be better than doing nothing. Now, I'm not saying that you should never learn some things, right? Like, okay, so you've been on the couch for the past 10 years. You've been jacking off to porn in your mom's and dad's basement. You've been living like a loser for the past 10 years, okay? All I'm saying is just go to the gym and like you said with Sean, just lift something. Now, okay, so you do that for a month. Now ask the biggest, most jacked dude at the gym, say, hey man, I've been coming for a month and like I've lost, 10, 15, 20 pounds and I want to learn how to deadlift. You look like you know how to deadlift. Can you teach me? That guy will teach you.
Yeah.
Like, unless he's an absolute dick, and I don't think there's that many of them out there, that guy's like, yeah, let me come here. I'll show you a couple things. And you just learn. All right. And then you learn how to do a deadlift. And then you go look and you look at the guy with the pecs, right? Like the biggest chest. And you're like, whoa, that guy looks like he knows how to bench press. Like I've seen him throwing up 400 pounds or whatever. So you just ask him, you go up to him and say, look, I'm sorry to bother you. I know this feels awkward, especially as a man, because you have to humble yourself. You go up to me and say, look, I know this is awkward. I've been out of shape for 10 years. I really want to like develop my chest. I want to get strong. And you look pretty strong. Can you show me like the proper technique? And he will show you. He will show you. I did this in my financial planning practice. Man, I was struggling, really struggling for like 4 years. I couldn't figure this out. And I was about to throw in the towel. And I'm like, I can't throw in the towel because I don't know what else I'm going to do. So I identified 2 guys in my office who perpetually just destroy. I mean, they were awesome. They were putting up numbers and they were getting new clients and they were getting assets under management. And I said, okay, look, I don't know what to do. So before I quit, I'm going to go ask these guys and I'm just going to see if they'll show me what they're doing. So I went to these 2 individuals and I said, look, I've been in the business for 4 years. Like, yeah, we know who you are and stuff. And we've seen each other around the office. And I said, I'm just really struggling. I don't know like how to do this stuff. Can you show me? And they're like, yeah, let's go to lunch and we'll teach you a few things. So I went to lunch with these guys, taught me a few things. Well, eventually we end up partnering. So what I did is I started to bring them in on my client interviews, like with my prospective clients. And I just brought them and I said, just like shadow me, just teach me. If I say something stupid, tell me afterwards. If I say something good, tell me afterwards. And we actually ended up becoming partners. And they taught me everything that they knew because I was humble enough to ask. And so people would say, and I started splitting business 50% with them. People would say, oh, I can't believe you'd split 50% of your business with them. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Look, 100% of zero is zero. And that's where I was. 50% of 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 7 figures is significantly better than 100% of zero. So yeah, I'm willing to pay them. Again, this goes back to our value conversation we were having earlier. Guys, humble yourselves. Go in, start with the lowest common denominator you possibly can, which is just rolling out of bed 10 minutes earlier and doing 10 push-ups, and then build from there. You don't need to solve world hunger. You don't need to solve all of the world's problems. You don't need to lose 100 pounds today. You just need to be better than you were yesterday by this much more. And then you'll figure that stuff out. You'll hire mentors, you'll hire coaches, you'll watch YouTube videos, you'll listen to podcasts, you'll buy courses. It is all there for the picking, but you got to get started.
Now, I love it because it's like that paralysis analysis. So many people just see all the information and then they do nothing. You know, like Andy calls them success zombies. You'll see them at every seminar. You'll see them at every conference. Hey, man, I was here last time. And
They haven't done shit. I always tell people, standardize before you optimize. You know, when somebody comes up and says, Sam, you know, I want to start working out, man. I want you to write me a workout program. What should I eat? Should I do keto? Should I do high carb? Should I do low carb? What supplements should I take? I'm like, why don't you just show up to the gym, same time, every day for a month? Just 30 minutes, 40 minutes. You know, once you do that, then come back and we'll talk about it. But until you do that, I'm not going to talk about it because I want to make sure you get standardized before you try to optimize that stuff.
I really like that. I've heard it referred to as, you know, mental masturbation, right? Like it feels really good, feels like you're doing something, but actually you're not ultimately getting the job done.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know, these guys think, oh, I'm studying, like I'm learning. Cool. When are you going to apply it? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm learning more. It's like, okay, you're jacking off then. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So like start applying it, man. Like put it into practice. And I'm not saying learning is bad. I'm just saying learn, apply, learn, apply, learn, apply. I was at I've been training jiu-jitsu for a little over a year now, slightly over a year. And 2 nights ago, I was rolling with this guy and he's a brown belt, very technical, strong, good practitioner. And I managed to take his back while we were rolling. And I just couldn't like close anything out, right? Like I couldn't choke him. And he was defending himself well, naturally, because he'd been in that situation a bunch of times. And I just stopped in the middle of our roll and I said, hey, like, I don't actually know what to do right here. Like, I don't know. And he's like, yeah, do this. And he actually taught me, took 2-3 minutes, and he actually taught me how to strangle him. And so he taught me, and then he's like, all right, so let's reset. You take my back where you were again, and you try that. And so I actually started to practice what he taught me, and he was able to defend that. And then he stopped, and he's like, okay, you're doing this right, but you're doing this wrong. Let me teach you this, tweak this, change this. And it was awesome. It was a great opportunity for me to learn, for him to teach. We were both served. We were both better off. He had to defend himself. I was trying to submit him. And in that situation, like, it's funny because he was teaching me how to beat him. And you think, okay, well, he's just helping me. No, he's actually helping himself too. Yeah. Because if I'm better, then he has to get better.
Yeah.
And this is what we understand, and this is what he teaches and how he teaches. We can do that in other aspects of our lives, and we should. It's like going to that jack guy at the gym and saying, look, I know this is weird, you know, but you look strong. You look like you know what you're doing. Can you like show me how you built up your biceps? Are you telling me if somebody said that to you guys, Sam, if somebody said, hey, look, your arms look jacked, and I came up to you and I'm like, hey, you look really strong. You've probably been doing this for a while. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like back in the gym after 10 years. You wouldn't help me, like give me some pointers? Of course you would.
Bro, like, you know, I got cut from the basketball team and all the kids ridiculed me, you know, when I was in, in 7th, 8th grade. So the way I got started weightlifting is I went to try to get better at basketball, but I went to this weight room with a bunch of jack guys. I was like 14 years old, kind of scrawny little kid, and these jack guys were lifting, and they just took me under the ring. And they saw this little scrawny kid, and they're like, hey, here's how you bench, here's how you should eat. Matter of fact, we're gonna lift heavy and go to eat all you can eat buffet after this. And next thing you know, man, that became my like little, my little clique, my little gang, and so I owe it to the world when somebody asks me that kind of stuff, man. We all been, gone through that same sequence, man. So it's good to give back.
Yeah. People want to help. And I think like he finds contribution in helping someone else just as much as the guy gets meaning and value from him helping them.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
But the thing is, though, too, is people want to help, but they're probably not going to go out of their way to do it, because who are you to interfere with what somebody else is doing? Like, you wouldn't offer unsolicited advice. So if you're trying to improve, here's the key. You got to have the balls to ask.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have the balls to put yourself out there and put yourself in an uncomfortable or humbling situation enough to say, I don't know what I'm doing. You know what you're doing. What do you see in me that I need to improve? And you got to have the balls to ask, because it's not my place. Sam, it's not your place. Like, if you saw a guy lifting incorrectly, frankly, it's not your place to go over and correct him. It's his job to say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you help me with the technique? And then you offer solicited advice.
If you correct him, you're a dick.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that guy thinks.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I did that to Ed Milet, though.
You did?
Yeah, but back in the day, man, like when Ed was skinny, and he didn't know who I was, and I was all jacked up. I was on all kinds of steroids back then. You know what I mean? I was like all fucking jacked. I was coming. The guy was lifting. He was doing these fucking, things like these. They're behind the necks, like he was doing like this. I'm like, dude, you need to go all the way down. If you don't do them like that. If you don't go all the way down, don't even do it at all. I walked away. And I don't even remember that conversation. Then Ed told me, like, damn, do you remember that conversation? I'm like, Ed, I don't remember you. He goes, yeah, back then, because I was, skinny Ed.
Yeah, man. If Ed my leg.
So Ed's special, and I'll tell you why this is special, because this will tie into what we're talking about. I imagine that because he was humble, because you can't have the level of success that Ed has had. I mean, I've followed that guy for 15 years. I started with World Financial Group, which is a business of his. So I would listen to CDs of his before he was the Ed Milet. I would listen to CDs of his before I went into calls, financial planning calls with clients. The thing that's special about him is because he's experienced the level of that he has, he's humble. So if somebody comes to him and gives credible advice, he's like, okay. As opposed to, fuck you, bro. Like, I know what I'm doing. You don't need to tell me what I'm doing. It's like, why would you tell that guy? Like, he obviously knows more than you, but most of us would do that. Like, well, screw you, buddy. But I imagine Ed was like, oh, and probably when you looked over to him, he was probably doing deeper sets or whatever it is you told him to do.
I'd be dumb not to take fitness advice from Sam. Like,
you would. Exactly. Absolutely.
Now, what about all those teenagers listening? You didn't grow up with a father figure, but you had father figures in your life. You had coaches and stuff like that, and you joined the army. So what advice would you give to those teenagers looking for something, and they don't have a dad at home, and they're searching?
Yeah, so I have not a lot, but occasionally I'll get somebody who asks me and says, like, how do I become a more manly man? Like, how do I become more manly? You do manly things, and you spend time around manly men. That's how you do it. And I know that might seem like a cop-out, but if you're young and you're like, I want to be a man, I want to be assertive, I want to be bold, I want to be strong, I want to have success, then what you need to do is you need to thrust yourself in the environment of men. Like, you need to actually put yourself into the arena, and it's going to be awkward, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be painful, and you're going to feel like a moron, and that's the cost. That's the cost. That's the ticket price. And if you're not willing to pay it, don't ask the question. If you're asking the question, it means you want it. You got to be willing to pay the price. And that means going to the gym, because that's where strong guys hang out. That means going to business meetings and luncheons, because that's where financially successful men spend their time. That means asking for mentorship from the guys who are more successful than you on whatever front that is. But you have to humble yourself enough to say, I'm here. I want to be here. There's a gap. Who understands that gap? Who's already walked that bridge? And if it's you guys, then I got to listen to you guys, and I got to be around you. And that's the reason I started the podcast. I saw guys who were successful in business. I saw men that I admired as family men and husbands and fathers. I saw men who were successful. I see, even now, I see politicians, which is something I'm a little bit more interested in lately, who have become political, who have marketed themselves well, who have shared a message that I resonate with, and I'm like, I want to learn from that guy. And so I put myself in his world, not ask him to come to mine. That's not right. I put myself into his world, and then I learn and absorb and ask good questions and exhibit a level of genuine curiosity that is going to help you become the type of man that you want to become.
Simple. I like it. The way you raise, I don't know how it says. It's the rising tide like rises all the ships, something like that. And it's,
Right.
Yeah, you're the average of the people you hang out with. So if you want to be that higher specimen or whatever, just hang out with those kind of people.
Simple concept.
Yeah. Now, what about the women? What about single moms? What about with boys? What about sisters or whatever, and they don't have that dad in their house? So what do you tell them?
They don't have a father figure in their life?
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if they're a single mom and you got a couple little boys running around, they, like you said, they're not everything to them. They do need that masculine. What can they do with their kids?
Listen to our podcast, I would say. I know that sounds a little self-serving, but I would definitely say that. And we actually have a lot of women who listen who are single mothers. For whatever reason, dad's out of the picture, he's passed away, whatever reason that is. They've got 3 boys and they're struggling to figure out, look, ladies, we love you. You're phenomenal. What you bring to the table in a family, in a community, in an environment, neighborhood, invaluable.
Yeah.
Just not complete. That's why we have men and we have women. And you need to humble yourself enough, because I hear from a lot of ladies who aren't humble enough to recognize this. And I know, because what they'll say is, well, a woman can raise a boy because it's just a human being, and so we can do it. That's not humility. That's pride. That's your pride speaking. And I get it. I understand it. You want to believe you're enough. With all the love in my heart, you are not. You are not. If you love your children, I was going to say specifically boys, but boys and girls, if you love your children, you need to humble yourself and say, I don't have all the answers and I cannot provide all the solutions. But what I can do is create the opportunities for my child to get the variable that I cannot provide myself. That's what my mother did for me. She knew, she recognized, I don't know what to do with this boy. Maybe it was out of sense of frustration. Maybe it was out of sense of love. I don't know what it was, but she said to herself, I don't know what to do with this kid. Here, go play sports. The first year, I remember in 7th grade, I wanted to play football. It was 6th or 7th grade. And she said, no. She's like, no, you can't play football. I'm worried about you getting injured. I'm worried about you getting hurt and hurting your growth plates and all those things that moms do. Again, that's their nature. I get it. We get to about, I think it was 8th grade. Yes, it was. It was 8th grade. And she's like, you need to go play football. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play football. She's like, you don't have a choice. You're going to play football. And so she put me in a tackle football league, and this was in Yorba Linda. This team had won all conference for the 3 previous years. These boys have been playing for 5, 6, 7, 8 years together. And here's this new kid who's never played in his life, and they kicked the shit out of me all season long. I remember one kid did a slot receiver, did a crackback on me, man. I nearly broke down and just like quit right then and there. My coach got up and he's like, I got up, my coach got in my face and he was like, man, that looked like it hurt. I'm like, yeah, that hurt. And he's like, you handled it really well. And then he walked off. My mom could not do that for me.
Yeah.
She would wrap her arms around me and, oh, I'm sorry, I hope you're okay and everything. And my coach just got in my face and said, you did good. You got hurt, but you did good. And I'm like, oh, man, I got up after getting my ass kicked, and I'm like, oh, the coach said I did good. That's what men provide. And so if you're a woman who's listening, who has young men in your life, get out of the way for a minute and like love your child enough to say, okay, I got to step back. I don't care if it's Boy Scouts. I don't care if it's a Big Brothers, Big Brothers program. I don't care if it's a sport. Competitive sports is where I think it's at. Get them into martial arts. Get them into football. Get them into wrestling. Get them into baseball. Whatever the thing. Volleyball. I don't care what it is. Soccer. It doesn't matter to me. Get them around boys exclusively with other men in an authoritative position, and get out of the way. Things will happen that you don't fully understand, and that's the point. That actually proves what I'm saying. My son, this last year, he missed a critical block in football, and the coach got him and grabbed him by the face mask and brought him right. You guys know what I'm talking about. Brought him right into his face, and he says, "That's your fault. You missed the block. You do better than that." And I saw my wife like mama bear, like, and I said, "Just sit down. Don't say anything. Don't react. You don't understand. Just sit down." And she sat down. I didn't do anything because I think that he did miss the block. It was evident. It was his fault. And his coach came up to him 5, 6, 7 plays later or whatever, wrapped his arm around him. And I don't know what he said to him, but he wrapped his arm around him. He said something to him, and everything was fine. And my son learned something that a woman could never teach him. So I'm just saying, we love you. You offer so much. What you bring is invaluable, but you just can't complete it. You got to have other men in their lives.
I always said, in a family situation, everybody has a role to play. We can't do what the women do, and they can't do what we do. And in a team, a quarterback is a quarterback, a running back is a running back, a fullback is a fullback. Everybody has a position to play for the team to win. And in a family setting, the man got to do what the man got to do. The woman got to do what the woman got to do. So they can, as a family, they have to win. And I can't, I agree with you more than that, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's true. But even that, think about that. The term roles, the man has a role to play. The woman has. People don't like that. They get all frustrated with that. I'm like, look.
I'm not. I'm not. I cared. Well, I give up on people, man. I'm gonna do what I think is right, and if you don't like me, and I always tell people, man, if people don't like Mother Teresa or Gandhi and Martin Luther King, they're not gonna like me, man. So that's for them.
And you're better for it. The people you're working to serve are better for it. We can get our panties in a bunch or whatever, and tiptoe on eggshells our entire lives, and never really serve anybody, never live a meaningful life. And just die miserable. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to do that, because they were so worried about, oh, what if I say something that might offend somebody? You're probably going to offend somebody. Like that. My wife, occasionally, she'll come to me every morning, and she's saying it jokingly, but serious at the same time. She's like, "So who are you going to piss off today?" and it's like, look, hon, I don't set out to piss people off. That's not my goal. I just say things that I believe are true, that I believe will help people. And yes, some people are going to get pissed off. And I tell her, I'm like, that's not up for me to decide. I can't make you pissed off. Yeah. I can't offend you. You have to decide to be offended. You have to decide to be pissed off. So I don't know who's going to decide to take this out of context. I don't know who's going to decide to be overly sensitive. I don't know. That's on them. But here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I think this was a phenomenal episode, and I know a lot of guys out there, a lot of people in general, are just gonna get a ton out of this.
Bro, we gotta get Ryan back, man, because we haven't even scratched the surface of what I want to, what we want to talk to you about, man. Because you have so much great information to give for men and women, to be able to raise healthy families, healthy children. Your book, like I said, I read it a couple of years ago. I loved it. And it's about time somebody's speaking up for what needs to be done in a family setting.
Yeah, man, I just appreciate the opportunity to share, and I'm really excited about the message and the mission and what we're doing. And so, man, any opportunity I have to share, I really appreciate that opportunity for you guys sharing what you've built, your value, what you offer, and sharing that with me. That's meaningful to me.
Absolutely, man. Well, guys, go follow Ryan on Instagram. He's at Ryan Michler.
He's a beast.
Yes, check out Order of Man podcast. Find them on Apple. Find them on YouTube, guys. Subscribe to their email list. Whatever they got, it's great stuff, guys. You're gonna find a lot of value. But thank you so much, Ryan, for coming on, man.
Right.
We appreciate it so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, if you like today's episode, do me a huge favor. Go and leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel, leave me a review, and tag a few friends that you think can benefit from what we shared today. Really appreciate it. God bless.